I think there was an aptitude test I took in middle school or high school, and it said that I should be an architect. So I think I was kind of going that route. I was in a summer program called Inroads, and I apologize, I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but it was basically a summer program to expose students to different careers. And so one of the careers that they exposed us to is they took us to a television station, and they allowed us to tour the station, and we got to see what a journalist would do or what a stage manager would do. I was really interested in what the meteorologist would do. And I actually stayed and I talked to the meteorologist, and from there, that's where I started my interest in weather. When I first started in meteorology, I wanted to be an on-air meteorologist. It didn't work out, but from there, I still pursued my degree in meteorology, and I started with the National Weather Service, which is a part of NOAA, and I was an operational forecaster in Des Moines, Iowa. I wanted to be an on-air meteorologist. I had a summer internship. The summer internship did not work out well. The TV station told me I did not fit the demographic of Central Iowa. So they did not want me to continue on after my internship. So long story short, I'm sitting in class and a man comes in. He was a meteorologist in charge at the weather forecast office in Des Moines, Iowa. And he said, hey, we have summer internships available for, I think it was like back then, this was 25 years ago, I think it was like $9, $10 an hour, something like that. And we're really looking for summer interns. And so that's how I started my career. And I tell everyone that what I heard was $10 an hour. And I know that sounds so shallow, but at the time, I think the minimum wage was like $5 an hour. So to get college credit, to do something that's related to your major, and to get paid twice the minimum wage, I was sold. And it was through a program called SCEP, the Summer Career Experiences Program. And from there, I started my career in NOAA, or the National Weather Service. I'm still very connected with the office because there's 32 people that I worked with for over 2.5 years. It was an awesome experience. And so some of the projects that we do, we use this term called R2O, which stands for Research to Operations. So our goal is, and this is why I loved my job, we come up with the next big thing. So in other words, if you have an idea on how to improve weather, it usually starts in the weather program office, and then our program managers help make that idea a reality. So we move it along the continuum, we manage the program, and then we eventually have something tangible that we can then pass on to operational meteorologists to make the forecast better. So specifically, what are some of the things that we do? Hydrology, which is dealing with water. Another thing is what's called modeling, because the way we forecast the future is we use computer models. So we're always constantly trying to improve upon that forecast. So modeling is another aspect of our office. Another thing that we have are what are called test beds. Test beds are where you bring together the researcher or that person with that bright idea and the operational forecaster, and they kind of test out that idea to see if it actually works before it moves further in the process. Another thing that we do, there's something called social science. And social science means we're trying to explain weather in an easy to understand manner so the public is as informed as they can be so they can make the best decisions possible. So it's not a physical science, but it's called social science. I'll give you one more. We call it STTS, sub-seasonal to seasonal. So right now, if you turn on the TV and you look at your forecast, it's probably a 5-day forecast, maybe a 7-day forecast. Well, after that time, after 7 days, the forecast sometimes is not as reliable. And what we're finding is there's a lot of citizens, there's many companies that really need a forecast from like 2 weeks all the way to 2 years into the future. And that's what S2S is. It's called sub-seasonal to seasonal. So coming up with forecasts 2 weeks, a year, 18 months into the future, that really helps a lot of these companies make informed decisions. So those are just a couple of the things that we do in our office to help improve the overall forecast. Well, I say this all the time. The best part of my job and the reason why I was at NOAA for 26 years is the people. There are some awesome people. I mean, people really love the mission. People are dedicated to what they're doing. I mean, I knew people who literally worked on one scientific topic for over 30 years. So to be that dedicated to try and, advance research in a certain area, that's really extraordinary. So I would say if there's anything about NOAA, or hopefully anybody who's listening to this, anything about your job, is that the people are really what makes it work. I mean, yes, we're dealing with science, but it's really, at the end of the day, about the people. I think 26 years ago, I had kind of tunnel vision. I could only see the here and now. So I think if there was anything that surprised me, it was that I haven't stopped learning in 26 years. And I know that's probably not what you want to hear as a high school student, but you're always learning. There's always something new to try or do or expand your horizons. So with all of that being said, I think over 26 years, I've learned so much, not only about weather, but how to work with people, how to manage people, how to collaborate, and not only learning about NOAA, but learning about other agencies as well. I would say that the world is your oyster. And what I mean by that is, I think that during my career, I thought if you do a good job and you do your job well, you'll advance and you'll get to where you want to be. And after 26 years, I've learned it's a little bit more than that. You have to market yourself. You have to go after what you want. You have to be willing to hear the word no, because, you're not always going to hear the word yes. And you have to have this spirit of, I want to almost say, assertiveness or aggressiveness. So in other words, you can have anything that you want, but you have to position yourself and you have to get ready and you have to make sure that you are prepared to push yourself forward. And so I think that was my greatest learning experience, because like I said, I thought if you just did your job well, that's all that matters. And after 26 years, I just want to say it's more than that. What I want to say is there's not that much change. Before COVID-19, I was the deputy director. So I was responsible for the day-to-day operations of the office. So my day was a lot of meetings. I always had to be looking ahead. I had to be strategic. I had to see if there are potential issues or fires and try and put them out before they, turned into wildfires. So now in COVID-19, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, up until I left a week ago, it was the same thing in terms of I had a lot of meetings. And so I tell people that my biggest skill is my ability to listen, because you want to listen to people's needs. You want to fulfill those needs. You want to be a team player. You want to collaborate with other people. So I want to say that my job before COVID-19 was a lot of meetings, a lot of partnerships, a lot of collaborations. I traveled somewhat, but not that much. But the whole point was understanding that atmospheric science and weather is more than just NOAA. So I collaborated with people from across the federal government, people in academia, people in the private sector. So it was a lot of talking, collaborating, negotiating, and that kind of boils down to a lot of meetings. One, I would say go for it. I'm a firm believer that, we really need more people in STEM. And if I could be, really bold, we probably need a lot of people in the ocean and atmospheric sciences as well. And there's not a lot of people in the ocean and atmospheric sciences that look like me. So not only am I a big proponent of STEM, I'm also a big proponent of diversity and inclusion. And we want to hire a workforce that's representative of the society that we live in. So what are some suggestions? What worked for me, I think, is that I interned early in my career and I interned often, because, an internship is a great way to test something out. And I tell people this all the time. I had several internships that didn't work out. And I think that was just as impactful as the internships that did work out. So yes, I had an internship that turned into a career, but I also had internships where at the end of the internship, I said, not me. It's not something I want to do. And so that's what I would encourage to anyone is start early, try an internship, even if you have to volunteer and you don't get money for it. because the experience is going to be extraordinary. And so even if you don't like it, then you know that's not your path, that's not the direction to go. So I'm a firm believer in internship. So that would be my first suggestion. Other resources, I say you have to build your network. And you kind of hear that saying, it almost sounds cliche, but there's so many times where I found out about opportunities by talking to someone, not because it was written down or as an advertisement or anything like that. It's because I knew someone who was aware of an activity or a meeting or a conference. And you go to those activities, you talk to people, you network, you get to meet others, and that builds your base. And so, even when I wasn't looking for a job, you still want to network because you can be a resource for someone else, just like someone else can be a resource for you. So the first thing I would say is internships. The second thing I would say is building your network. And the third one is that you really need to believe in yourself. And so many times you are your worst enemy. Sometimes you'll think, oh, I can't do that, or that's not for me, or I don't have all the skills, or maybe I haven't taken all the college credits to fulfill that position. You'd be amazed at how many people talk themselves out of a job or an opportunity, and they're really qualified. The big thing right now is they call it AI, artificial intelligence. So finding ways in which we can program computers and to kind of think like us. So let's go back to what I said before. We had a Hurricane Laura, and I believe it was a Category 4 when it made landfall. That's a pretty powerful storm. And so there's a lot of damage. And sometimes there are human beings who have to go door to door, checking to see if there's anyone that's injured or under debris or rubble, and just making sure that they're okay. Well, now here's an example of AI. We have drones. Now, not every area has drones, but a drone can survey an area, and they can use what's called heat technology, or also called infrared, and they can look down into debris and say, hey, that's a warm spot. It might be a human being, under all that debris. So it's a way to scan an area to maybe bring help at a faster rate. And so that's just one example of AI. So I think artificial intelligence, we're going to see that a lot in atmospheric science in terms of creating a better forecast or helping to inform the public, or in this case, using drones to survey a damaged area. So that's one example of what the future can look like.